Hello, hello, everyone. We're back again with the nitty gritty of parenting. I know last time we talked about just generally how that firstborn child really gets the uh, the overload of how we think we're supposed to do things or how we plan on doing things, and sometimes that just doesn't work. I mean, I know it may sound odd to say, but trial and error is kind of it's kind of what happens. I mean, she's not a trial and error baby, but I mean, how else would you have learned that by the time you have the second one, if you have the second one, that maybe there's just some things you won't even attempt to do. You would just be like, like I used to laugh at those videos where the second born child would like start crying and the mom would be like, you're all right, but when it was your firstborn child, any and everything, a little scrape, a little bump, like tears, we were just running, running, running. And then it's kind of like when you get that second child, you're like, yeah, but are you really hurt or are you, it's it's those things because if you're constantly we try to teach this sense of like toughness, like, oh, you're okay, get up, and then it's like, well, dang, well, I might have done that too much, to my firstborn child, like, oh, you're all right, shake it off. And now this child has grown up kind of reserved or internalizes their feelings. And then, so now when you have the second kid, you're like, oh, let me be more attentive. Let you voice your emotions more, voice your opinions more. And, it creates this, I call it accordion effect with parenting, and it's like, oh my gosh, parenting is such a trial and error, because yes, you can read some great books, you can get some great advice, you can turn to all the documents you've gathered from the internet, and some of them just don't work for your kids, they don't work for your family dynamic. And coming from a place where I had more than one sibling, it's it's hard not to say, well, that child gets treated this way and I get treated this way, or that child gets this and that from you, but this is what I get from you. And it's not necessarily out of jealousy or anything like that. It's just a different kind of desire. But if they don't know how to even communicate that they just have a different need, then you won't know until something happens. And then by the time that happens, you're like, oh, I'm sorry, please forgive me. Mommy didn't mean it or daddy didn't mean it. And then you go down this road of like, oh my gosh, how long have I been doing this? How long have they been feeling this? And I don't know, that parental guilt is real. Okay, I know back then parents are like, "You just gonna get what you get, and I'm gonna do the best I can, and you're gonna be all right." That's it. They don't care more beyond that. But I literally learned like these are going to be the generations after us, and if we don't give them a second chance, who will? And so I started thinking of how many trials, how many times where I was faced with the challenging um, task of breaking out of the norm, of the cultural norm, because parents don't necessarily, or rather didn't necessarily apologize. Like it could be something that we're just like, oh no, you just got to deal with that. But even the times where we knew, like, no, I dropped the ball on that one, I messed up, I felt myself, having reservations about apologizing because I was like, you're my kid. Like, okay, that didn't work out. That that's just it. But it's like, no. If I don't teach her how to be upfront about her messing up and be willing to, take that accountability and apologize, w- how is she going to, pay that forward? How is she going to continue that? So I struggled at times with apologizing where I knew I dropped the ball because I was like, my parents ain't do this. They just like, hey, you get over it. Oh, you mad or you got an attitude. And I learned that their seemingly aggression or their attitude towards me, it wasn't necessarily like they were upset. They felt bad. They were apologetic and it made them feel crummy to like disappoint me or to, see me upset, and they didn't know how to fix it. And I honestly don't even know if apologizing at the time would have fixed it. It wasn't even on the table. It wasn't even something that I desired, when I was done wrong to at the time. Obviously now that I'm a grown up now, when someone's wrong, I'd be like, hey, you owe me an apology, But growing up as a kid, it's like you just want it to be fixed. You don't necessarily think of all the different avenues of how they can fix it. You just want it to be fixed. And so in certain ways, when I saw my daughters and I relationship drifting, I wanted the same thing. I was like, man, I want to fix this. Like, I don't even know what I'm doing for real, but it obviously I'm not going to continue doing the same thing I was doing because this is how it got to this point. And so, you reach that point in parenting where you go, well, if I just abruptly stop and I just completely change course, will they mess up anything? Will they like reject me, like push me away? Will they embrace me? And I don't think as kids we even think about like our parents even thinking about those kind of things. Like it matters to them how we accept them or how we don't, or how we can't all the time tell when somebody is taking a leap of faith or they're just getting outside of their comfort zone to make amends. Sometimes we just see it as, you just feel bad. That's why you're doing it. But not necessarily that they are genuinely wanting things to be different going forward. And I think that I love you too, honey. My husband's so supportive, y'all. He's so supportive. I'm gonna get him on this podcast too soon, sooner than he thinks. But it's hard to, one, recognize when a person is trying to change the course of a relationship for the long run, because I think as in society, we are so used to people waiting until the last minute to do something. We are so used to them being openly apologetic all of a sudden because they got caught or because, their business got aired out. It's almost like we don't even understand, or we struggle to recognize genuineness. And I think a lot of it stems from that parenting child relationship, because how do I know that my child is actually receiving me? How do I know that after I decide that I'm going to change the course of this relationship, I'm going to walk in there and I'm going to be like, you know what? I messed up. I shouldn't have yelled at you. I shouldn't have, blown up like that. Can we start over? And then you do all this talking, this whole spiel. You're trying to find the right things to say. How, it's like those thoughts are in the back of your head. Like, I hope I conveyed myself correctly. I hope, And then there's that child perspective of, I don't know how to really receive this right now. And I think that apology was probably the missing link, to go over that, to be like, in that moment, hey, no, I did not mean, I was not supposed to snap at you. You didn't deserve that. I'm sorry. Let's start over. Let's start this over right here. I think one of the biggest trial and error things that I did was I would wait because I didn't know how to address it. Like I knew I was wrong. Like I knew my reaction was over the top, but I was like, I have no, no, um, what do you call that? I don't have any past memories of this happening that I can rely on. Because a lot of the things we think back, like, oh yeah, I saw this is how my auntie did this. This is how my cousin did this. I didn't have that. I didn't have that in the moment. I'm stopping myself. I'm reversing whatever course I was on, and I'm going to choose something different. I'm going to choose something healthy. And that honestly didn't even start until my daughter was maybe, I want to say like 6 or 7. I just noticed her recoil, and it made me uneasy. I think that's what I just said. It made me uneasy because I'm like, I understand, there's a respect factor. I understand there's a certain kind of like fear reverence. Like I don't I don't really know how to explain it, but there's just that thing when like even a toddler, I'm not saying like, you gotta abuse them or anything like that, but when you walk up on a kid doing something that they know they're not supposed to do, you go, "What are you doing?" And they jump. They have that internal, like, it's just they're already wired like, I shouldn't be doing this. There are consequences. I care about, the other person's reaction to me doing whatever it is I'm doing. And so it's that kind of thing. Like if it were that, I would be fine. But I was like, no, her reaction is just, it's bigger than that. So I was like, what did I do to cause her reaction to be so big? You know. And so I said, I want to change that. Yes, she will be respectful. Yes, she will understand there are consequences. Yes, she will understand that there are just things that are the way that they are and they are not changing just because you don't like them, because they are what's best for you. You know, those kind of things. But I was like, outside of that, I was like, how do I raise this kid, because I was a single mom at the time. I said, how do I raise this kid not to be a sociopath? And I know that sounds so like, dang, but it's so easy for us to impart the wrong values, the wrong way of thinking, the wrong way of processing, emotions and information, and we don't really know what's sticking with them. We have a hope, we have a, we're just gonna keep pounding it, pounding it, pounding it. But some kids, the second they get the opportunity to leave or to forget everything you've ever told them, oh, they're taking it, they're running, they're going, and they ain't never looking back. And I was like, I don't want my kids to do that. I don't want them to feel like this ain't no safe place. This ain't no safe space for them to unload everything that's been in their mind. Obviously, they wouldn't be, doing nothing out the way or talking in a disrespectful manner or anything like that. But I was like, if I don't change the narrative, I'm just going to be creating another me. And at the time, I was broken. I was bitter. I was angry. I was hurt. I mean, just a mess. And I was like, I don't I I might not have all of these chances that I think I'm going to have get as to get this right, you know? Yes, I'm not 100% a perfect parent. I don't even know what a yes, I do. Jesus Christ is a perfect parent. But anyway, I was like, I have to do my best. And there are just some things that we aspire to do or that we strive to do that only we will know if we are really giving our best. And so that's what I decided to do because I was like, man, dang, she remembers me doing that 2, 3 years ago. Like, ah, I ain't even, my bad. Or I see her doing something and I'm like, I know you saw me doing that. Why did I let you see me doing that? Why? 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 And kids don't understand the headache that parents give themselves when they be like, oh, I should not have let little Tommy or little Darius or little Susie or little Elizabeth experience that. I should have shielded them from that. I should have protected them. I should have did this. I should have. There are so many I shouldas that goes through a parent's mind, but sometimes we feel like it's too late, you know? And even as an adult child, when you see that a parent or guardian or somebody that looked after you or that was supposed to look after you, sometimes you feel like it's too late. Sometimes you feel like, yeah, that ship has sailed. I don't know what to tell you. Um I appreciate you showing interest, but I don't know how to connect with you in that way. And I think a lot of that is why so many people push away a deeper belief in something. I think it's a lot easier to stay hurt than it is to be healed because walking and in a healed manner, having a healed heart, it requires you to look at those things. It requires you to be like, yeah, you did drop the ball that time. Yeah, you did cause this horrible situation to happen. Yeah, you were the one that did that to that person. Yeah, you were the one who got caught talking behind somebody's back and it truly hurt them. Yeah, you were the one. It requires us to look at ourselves without the flashy stuff on, without the hair all bedazzled, and I don't even know if people bedazzle their hair, but that ain't the point. It requires us to look at ourselves without anything, without money, without cars, without clothes, without the big houses, without anything. Just us in the raw. And a lot of us don't we don't like what we're looking at. We don't like what we look like when we pull the veil back. But the biggest thing that I learned with being a parent is that our kids see right through that. Man, our kids see right through that. There really is no thick curtain or thick veil in front of them. It's something about them being so innocent. They don't see our pain and our trauma and the drama and the anger and they just see somebody that they're trying to love and they're just hoping, okay, I hope they love me back. And I hope it's not just in their words. I hope they actually show me. And kids think about these kind of things and they have their own thoughts, and I think And coming from a controlling environment, that was my biggest trial and error when my kids were really, really little, like really, really little. Because it's so easy to be like, this is what you can't do, this is what you can do, this is where you can't go, this is where you can go. Because you have that responsibility and you have that power. You have that ability to dominate that situation. And a lot of people, they take that and they take full advantage of it. I mean, they don't hold back anything from exhibiting their power over their kids or over whoever they're in the household with. And I didn't know that I was controlling. I didn't know that I had a deep rooted issue with being in control and having all the answers and making it make sense. And I was like, but I yelled so much, obviously in my mind about how much I hated that people were being so controlling over me. I remember ranting and raving and saying, "Oh, I can't wait till I get out of this situation. I can't wait until I can do this. I can't wait until I can do that." And it wasn't until I had a little person of my own where I was like, "Dang, you kind of need to let up a little bit, don't you think? You kind of breathing down her neck, trying to live for her and live for you." Like it was like, I understand kids are an extension of you, but no, 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 no. That little person has their own opinions, has their own favorite colors, has their own set of foods that they like and don't like. And when it went against the things that I was or that I did or that I wanted, I felt some type of way, but I didn't know why. I didn't know why I was upset. I didn't know why I was always irritated. I didn't know that it was because I wanted to be in control. I wanted everything to run exactly how I wanted to run. I wanted everything to look exactly how I wanted it to look because I felt like, based on all of the experiences I had, that I was able to provide something different. I thought I was going to be able to provide the very best of the best because I spent years looking at this and saying, that's not good parenting. And then I spent years looking at this saying, that's some pretty good stuff. I'm going to add that to my, you know, thinking that I came up with the perfect little teaching method. And then I had another kid, and my other daughter is nothing like my first daughter. And so I was well out in the field somewhere thinking, oh my goodness, what is going on? Okay, I just I just got through dealing with all of these issues, and now I have another child that is it interprets things in a completely different way, loves a completely different set of things than the first child. And I was like, wow. Now me feeling like, okay, most of my trial and error is out the way. I learned this, don't do this, or do that, or only do a little bit of this and don't ever, ever, ever do that. I just kind of figured, okay, one kid, you pretty much got it down packed after that because that's all it takes, right? All it takes is for you to start raising one kid and then you got the rest figured out. Oh, wrong. That is not true. So very not true. Because I I don't know why. Maybe I'm tripping or something, but with every kid there was a different set of trial and errors. And I was like, it's because your personalities are different. I may have fussed at my first daughter and was like, that's not acceptable. You cannot do that. I don't want to see you do that ever again. That really made me feel disappointed. And then I could say the very exact words with a very with the same amount of emotion, the same facial expressions to my second daughter, and oh my gosh, it would just destroy her little feelings. Like, what? How I learned this. I learned not to yell. I learned not to be pushy. I learned not to be so aggressive. I learned not to be violent. Like, I went through these steps, and then you mean to tell me talking calmly and without standing up and exhibiting a negative sense of dominance, like, and that is what's breaking your little heart right now? Oh, and you almost want to say, baby, you just don't know. Your older siblings, oh, they got the works, and you're over here saying this. And you know what? I had to learn that that's also what I was taught. I was taught, and I didn't even realize I was taught that. I was taught to diminish how someone else feels about what you did to them. I was taught to minimize them, to make them feel like, oh, it's not that big. And that makes a person feel like their feelings are not valid. And that is an awful thing to do to a kid. That to a child, to anybody, but especially a child. I was taught that I needed to bring it down to an acceptable level that I wanted. And I became witness of myself that it's not their problem in this scenario, it's my problem. I caused that heartbreak. I used my words in a way that they didn't receive it. I tried to make their feelings less important than mine. And it all really drew back to processing emotion because I didn't come from that. So to have emotional children, emotional toddlers, which they all are, I didn't know what to do because I'm like, I want you to understand, yes, your feelings are important. Yes, you should express them. Yes, you should, stand stand tall and believe that you do deserve to be loved. You do deserve to be taken care of. And I was like, then what is my problem? If I can say all this to myself, if I can read all the books, why am I not parenting the way that I said I would parent? Why aren't I being the healthy parent? And it's because I did not have the knowledge, I did not have the know how to process other people's emotions. Yes, I don't want to become it. I don't want to take on their feelings, but I need to process them in the same way that I process their words because I'm speaking from an emotional place when I say I am just so disappointed in that. And if they turn around and say, I'm sorry you feel that way, this is why I did it. And when you responded, I didn't know what else to say because I was hurt. Your words hurt me. And instead of saying, oh, well, you're just trying to flip, I need to process their feelings and be like, you know what? I understand why you felt that way. I see what you're trying to say. And doing that with your child coming from a place that did not do that. And it was so hard. And sometimes it's still hard. And I had to realize that does not make me a bad mom. That does not make anybody a bad mom. That does not make them a bad dad. The fact that it's even being noticed, that there should be some improvement, there should be some work done in that area, that that's that's a great step by itself, you know? And I just really learned that trial and error is a part of life. And I love that saying because it's never really a loss. I say it's either a blessing or a lesson. And if you refuse to learn the lesson, well, you're just going to be on a merry-go-round. I'm not going to say you're just going to keep losing. No, you're just going to be on a merry-go-round, whatever that looks like for you. And if you do learn the lesson, then okay, pay it forward and receive your blessing. Like, and in this case, it's a child that's able to say, you know what, I can knock on my mom's door. I can go to my dad and I can say, hey, can I talk to you for a second? Because I got something on my mind or I got something on my heart. Can you help me with it? But in the beginning, when I was just like, oh, I'm going to just do everything my way and I'm not going to give this kid the ability to have any input. You're just going to get what you get. You're going to be talked to how you're talked to. And that's it. It just, it just wouldn't have worked. It wouldn't have worked. And so I was like, man, I really need to take these trial and errors and analyze them beyond just the fact that okay, this little gentle parenting thing didn't work, but why? Was it my method? Was it my tone? Was it, you know, we need more, what is that word? It's not present parents. It's a word. I'm going to think of it, and in the next podcast I'm gonna tell you guys what it was, but attentive, just more attentive parents to see that, wow, I really had the potential to affect you in a negative way. I'm so glad I didn't. But see, and it takes time to get to that, and it takes time to fix a situation that it didn't even look like it needed fixing. You just figured this is how everybody was raised. This is what everybody said. This is what everybody did. But you're just not you're not just in everybody. And your child isn't just in everybody. There's somebody. And that somebody really needs us to look at what works and what doesn't work and be okay with that. If something doesn't work and it needs to work, like it's just a necessity for the household to help it run better, then okay, go to the drawing board. Let's look at it. Let's see, how can we make this work? How can we incorporate it? What can we do? And I wasn't I, you couldn't have paid me back then to be like, you want me to what? Negotiate with a child. That's a child. I'm the adult. I'm the parent. You do as I say. That false dominance is unnecessary. But I didn't learn that until my trial and errors. And so I encourage you all, whether you are an adult child coming out of or um, came out of an area in life where you weren't treated that way. You weren't shown how to process emotion. You weren't shown that what you think and how you feel are important. Well, I'm here to tell you, you're important. It's important. And I am just so glad you guys tuned in with me. I'm glad you guys were able to receive some wonderful things and some encouragement. I can't hug you physically, but just know I'm hugging you. And I can't wait to see you guys tomorrow. Now, mind you, go ahead and subscribe. Go ahead and hit the thumbs up. I don't know what else all the other apps have, but double tap it, swipe it, something. And we're going to all gather back here tomorrow. Thanks, you guys. See you later. The follow button so we can all stay up to date with each other. Alrighty. See you guys later.